There are two silences in this case, and until you understand both of them, you will not understand why Nancy Guthrie is still missing. The first silence belongs to a man named Tommaso Cioni. He is married to Nancy's oldest daughter. He drove Nancy home on the last night she was seen alive. He watched her walk inside, and from that moment forward, he has said nothing. Not one public statement, not one video, not one word to a single journalist, while his wife's family disintegrated in front of the entire country. 5 weeks of silence. While Savannah Guthrie begged on camera. While Cameron Guthrie addressed the kidnapper directly. While Annie held herself together in front of investigators who searched her home 5 separate times. Every member of that family screamed into the void for help. Every member except one, until he resurfaced at his mother-in-law's memorial, walking arm in arm with Annie and Savannah Guthrie. And the way he walked matched the masked man on the porch. The second silence belongs to the FBI. They have 10,000 hours of surveillance footage. They have cell tower records from every device that moved through that corridor between 2 and 3 a.m. on February 1st. They have a car on camera 2.5 miles from Nancy's home at 2:36 a.m. They know the make, they know the model, they know the direction it was heading, and they have said nothing. 2 silences, 1 personal, 1 institutional. And in my experience covering cases like this, both kinds of silence tell you the same thing. Someone is protecting something. This video is my analysis of the Nancy Guthrie case, built on confirmed facts, expert assessments, and my own observations from covering this investigation since day one. I am not law enforcement. I am not accusing anyone of any crime. Every person discussed here is presumed innocent. But I am going to walk you through the publicly available evidence, connect the patterns that I believe matter, and let you see what I see. If you disagree, tell me in the comments. If you agree, share this video, because the more eyes on this case, the harder it becomes for anyone to stay silent. Subscribe and turn on notifications right now. When this case moves and the evidence makes clear it is already moving, this channel is where you hear it first. Before the silences make sense, you need the timeline, because the timeline is what makes both silences impossible to explain away. The last ordinary night. January 31st, 2026. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, had dinner at her daughter Annie's home in Tucson. Afterward, Annie's husband Tommaso Cioni drove Nancy back to her house in the Catalina foothills. She arrived at approximately 9:45 p.m. The garage door closed at 9:50 p.m. Cioni says he confirmed she was safely inside before driving away. 9:50 p.m. That is the last moment anyone can place Nancy Guthrie inside her home alive. The man who placed her there disappeared into a desert night, and the documented record of what he did next is nothing. No confirmed alibi for Tommaso Cioni during the hours that followed has been made public. None for Annie either. They live in the same house. Whatever alibi one provides, the other confirms. For 3 hours and 57 minutes, the record is silent. Then, the clock starts. The window. 1:47 a.m. The Nest doorbell camera at Nancy's front door goes offline. Not a glitch. Investigators confirmed someone physically disabled it. 2:12 a.m., a secondary camera registers a motion event, but no footage is saved. Nancy did not have a cloud subscription. 2:28 a.m., Nancy's cardiac monitoring app loses its Bluetooth connection to her pacemaker. 41 minutes. Camera down at 1:47. Pacemaker disconnected at 2:28. Someone was inside that house for 41 minutes. Professional burglars operate on 5-minute windows. 10 is sloppy, 20 is reckless. 41 minutes inside a home in complete darkness is not a burglary. It is not a crime of opportunity. It is someone who was not afraid of being caught because they already knew there was nothing left in that house that could catch them. 41 minutes is the confidence interval of a person who disabled the recording systems before they walked in and knew exactly what they would find when they got inside. Nancy's phone, wallet, hearing aid, daily cardiac medication, and car were all recovered inside the home. Blood confirmed by DNA to be hers was found at the front entrance. Sheriff Nanos told reporters there were additional things at the scene that did not sit well, details he declined to specify. Every item that tells you a person chose to leave was exactly where she left it. The only thing missing was Nancy. The medication. Now here is a detail that has not received the attention it deserves, and it tells you something critical about what this crime actually was. Nancy's essential cardiac medication was on the kitchen counter. She required daily dosing. Without it, her heart condition could become life-threatening. 41 minutes inside that house, and nobody took the pills. Think about that. If this was a kidnapping for ransom, if the plan was to hold an 84-year-old woman and negotiate for money, the medication is the single most important item in the house. A dead hostage is worth $0. You take the pills, you keep her alive, you collect your money. The only scenario in which the medication stays on the counter is one where keeping Nancy alive long enough to collect a ransom was never the objective. The pills tell you the ransom was theater. I will come back to that. The block goes dark. In early March, FBI agents went door to door in Nancy's neighborhood, asking about internet connections on the night she disappeared. Multiple homeowners confirmed disruptions. A couple living near Nancy said their Ring camera closest to her house showed not available. Their other cameras further away worked normally. They had never seen that error before. They called it uncanny. The Pima County Sheriff's Department confirmed it is investigating a damaged utility box around the corner from Nancy's home, believed to be connected to the internet outage that disrupted nearby surveillance cameras. The doorbell camera disabled by hand, the neighborhood internet knocked out through a damaged utility box, nearby Ring cameras dark, 2 systems, 2 methods, both neutralized before the front door opened. That is, infrastructure-level sabotage by someone who understood the entire security architecture of the block. Cybersecurity expert Morgan Wright assessed that the clear footage recovered from Nancy's Nest camera means a Wi-Fi jammer was probably not used at the front door itself. His conclusion: the broader internet disruption was caused by a different method, likely physical damage to local infrastructure, while the camera was separately disabled by hand. 2 different attack vectors executed in sequence. Whoever did this mapped the surveillance ecosystem of the entire neighborhood and dismantled it piece by piece. Not just Nancy's cameras, her neighbor's cameras. The utility box around the corner, the fact that her Nest system wasn't recording to cloud. That knowledge does not come from Google Maps. It comes from years of walking those streets, parking in that driveway, and living inside that woman's world. Tell me in the comments, how does a stranger learn all of that? For 9 days, investigators had nothing. The doorbell camera had been ripped off the house. No cloud backup. The footage should have been gone. On February 10th, FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed agents recovered footage from residual data in the Nest camera's back-end servers with technical assistance from Google. The images and a 27-second video showed a masked individual at Nancy's front door in the early morning of February 1st. The gear: dark clothing, black nitrile, gloves, ski mask, front-mounted holster with a firearm, a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack, sold exclusively at Walmart. The FBI described the suspect as a male, 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches, average build. The holster had unique characteristics. Investigators identified a ring on the suspect's finger. Former FBI profiler Jim Clemente identified a possible tattoo or marking on the right wrist. Now, I want to talk about the gear. Because the gear tells you something that most coverage has gotten exactly backward. A $20 Walmart backpack with reflective safety strips that light up under infrared like a road sign. A cheap ski mask. A belly band holster strapped over a thick jacket in the wrong position. Firearms analysts have publicly noted that nobody with even basic tactical training would wear a holster that way. The total cost of everything this person was wearing is probably $70. People defending any specific suspect in this case love pointing to the gear. They say, no one smart enough to plan this operation would show up dressed like they bought their crime kit from a clearance bin. An AP biology teacher? A person who understands forensic DNA collection? They would never look this sloppy. But flip that argument? Because it flips perfectly. If you are an intelligent person committing a crime you cannot be connected to, the most important thing is the profile, the behavioral template the FBI builds to describe who they are looking for. If the suspect shows up in professional gear, night vision, signal jammer, suppressed weapon, the profilers describe an educated, disciplined, trained individual. That profile narrows fast. It starts pointing at people with technical knowledge, people with scientific backgrounds, people who understand how evidence works. But if you deliberately assemble the worst possible kit, the cheapest backpack, the wrong holster, the reflective straps you should have cut off, you build a character. The FBI profilers describe a disorganized, impulsive offender, someone who has never planned anything in their life. And they stop looking at the methodical, careful person who lives 4 miles away. That is not stupidity. That is a costume. And a month later, no one has been named as a suspect, which means the costume is working. Tell me in the comments, do you think the gear was deliberate? Because I have never seen a crime this meticulously planned paired with equipment this poorly assembled. That contradiction tells a story all by itself. How he moved, but the gear can be faked. The movement cannot. Every expert who reviewed the footage noted the same thing. The suspect did not search for the camera. He walked directly to it. No hesitation at the gate, no pausing to orient. He reached out and tapped the lens twice, casual, rhythmic, like checking a piece of furniture he walks past every day. Then he reached into a specific spot in the landscaping, pulled vegetation, and covered the camera. That is not a stranger discovering a property. That is muscle memory. That is a body that has been through that entrance dozens of times, maybe hundreds. You can buy a cheap backpack. You can put on the wrong holster to look incompetent. But you cannot fake unfamiliarity with a space your body already knows. The feet go where they have always gone. The hand reaches where it has always reached. 20 years of walking through a front gate does not disappear because you put on a mask. He was there before, weeks before. A CNN source confirmed the recovered images were captured on 2 separate dates. The suspect visited Nancy's front door at least once before February 1st. On the March 9th episode of Brian Enton's podcast, a neighbor named Aldine described seeing a strange man around January 11th, 3 weeks before the abduction. His hat was pulled down low. He was taking a long look at Nancy's home. Aldine said she had only seen a stranger in the neighborhood once before in 12 years. She reported it to the FBI. She said it freaked her out. When FBI agents canvassed the neighborhood in early March, they specifically requested footage from January 11th without explaining why. The date aligns directly with Aldine's sighting. January 11th, a reconnaissance visit, then a return visit captured on the doorbell camera on a second date. Then the execution on February 1st. That is a 3-week operational timeline. But here's the detail that connects the reconnaissance to the execution. On January 23rd, according to reports, someone was observed walking backward past a home approximately 6 miles from Nancy's house. Walking backward. Testing how Ring cameras respond to a reversed approach. Consumer cameras use passive infrared sensors. They sleep until body heat triggers them. Walk forward, and the first 1 to 2 seconds capture your face. Walk backward, and the camera records the back of a hoodie, By the time the lens is focused, your face is shielded. That person was physically hacking a camera's lag time with their body. That is not an opportunist. That is someone who studied the technology, tested it in the field, and then applied what they learned at Nancy's front door 9 days later. When a dog barked, the person fled, but maintained their backward orientation. They suppressed the biological reflex to turn toward the sound. They would rather trip than give a camera a single frame of their face. That level of discipline comes from preparation. And by February 1st, when the same backpack with the same reflective strips appeared on Nancy's porch, the testing phase was over. Tommaso Cioni has been cleared as a suspect by the Pima County Sheriff's Department. He has not been charged. What follows is my analysis of publicly available information, expert commentary, and documented patterns. Cioni is presumed innocent. These are my observations. Draw your own conclusions. In every missing person investigation, the first question is always the same. Who was the last person to see the victim alive? In this case, the answer has never changed. Who he is, Tommaso Cioni, 50 years old, born in Tuscany, Italy. A biology teacher at Basis Oro Valley for more than 15 years. Married to Annie Guthrie, Nancy's eldest daughter, since 2006, 20 years, one son. He lives minutes from Nancy's home. He plays bass in a local band called Early Black. On January 31st, he drove Nancy home from dinner. She arrived at 9:45 p.m. The garage door closed at 9:50. He says he watched her go inside. Then he drove away. 4 miles, 10 minutes on empty desert roads. 3 hours and 57 minutes later, the camera went dark. And here is where the first silence begins. 5 weeks of nothing. Savannah Guthrie posted multiple emotional videos begging for her mother's return. She offered $1 million. She cried on national television. She addressed the kidnapper directly. She said every hour had been agony. Cameron Guthrie, a retired Air Force colonel, spoke directly to the kidnapper on camera. Annie cooperated so fully that investigators searched her property 5 times and impounded her car. Tommaso Cioni produced nothing. No statement, no video, no interview, no appearance beside his wife during any of her public-facing moments, no word directed at the investigation, the kidnapper, the media, or the $1 million reward. Reporter Brian Enton told Megyn Kelly that Cioni had not been seen in nearly a week. His words, "Big beard, very recognizable, gone." I want you to sit with that for a moment. Your mother-in-law is missing. The entire country is searching for her. Your wife is falling apart on Instagram. Your sister-in-law is on national television begging anyone with information to come forward, and you say, nothing. I understand that silence can mean many things. Grief does not always look the way we expect it to. Some people retreat inward. Some people shut down. I understand that. But in my observation, across every case I have studied, silence at this scale, for this duration, in the middle of this much public attention, is not a grief response. It is a legal strategy. It is the silence of a person who has been told that every word is a potential exhibit at trial. That is my analysis. You can disagree. But I cannot look at 5 weeks of unbroken silence from the last person to see Nancy Guthrie alive and call it anything other than a decision being made again every single day. What the property tells you. And the silence is not the only thing that stands out. FBI agents searched Annie and Cioni's home on at least 5 separate occasions. Agents were observed entering with a silver briefcase and leaving with a white case and a brown evidence bag. Former FBI agent Tracy Walder publicly assessed the white case as evidence processing equipment, and the brown bag as collected biological evidence. Annie's vehicle was towed and impounded. Their septic system was reportedly examined. Security cameras were removed from the property. 5 searches, evidence bags, an impounded vehicle, a septic examination. Cameras removed on a property belonging to people the sheriff says have been cleared. Many people following this case have noted the disconnect between the word cleared and the investigative activity that continued at that address. You do not return to a property 5 times to collect evidence from people you have eliminated from the investigation. Each return represents a specific evidentiary objective that required agents to go back. You do not return to a property 5 times to collect evidence from people you have eliminated. Each return represents a specific evidentiary objective that required agents to go back, and go back, and go back. The word cleared in a press conference and the word cleared in an evidence file are 2 very different things. The height, the FBI placed the suspect at 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches. Cioni's exact height has never been publicly confirmed. Early estimates placed him at approximately 6 feet. That 2-inch gap was the strongest argument against him matching the suspect. On March 2nd, Cioni appeared publicly for the first time, walking beside Savannah Guthrie, reported at 5 feet 10 inches, to the memorial outside Nancy's home. In the footage, he does not tower over her. He stands close to eye level. Some analysts estimated him at 5 feet 9 inches and a half. Within hours, side-by-side comparisons of Cioni's walk and the suspect's movement on the porch were everywhere. People were not comparing faces. They were comparing gait, shoulder roll, stride length. The way the body moves through a space it knows. Those comparisons accumulated hundreds of thousands of views. The gait, the shoulder roll, the cadence of the stride. Thousands of people watching 2 clips on a loop. The masked man on the porch at 1:47 a.m. and Tommaso Cioni walking to his mother-in-law's memorial in broad daylight, asking the same question. Is that the same person? 5 weeks of silence. And when he finally let the cameras see him, his body said what his mouth never has. The height that was supposed to eliminate him may place him directly inside the FBI's range. And the walk that was supposed to be his first public act of grief became the most analyzed 30 seconds of footage in this case since the doorbell camera. The knowledge problem. But here is what matters more than the height, more than the silence, more than the gait. It is the knowledge. I am going to walk through every piece of information the person who took Nancy Guthrie needed to possess before they opened that door. And I want you to count. 1. They knew the doorbell camera was not recording to the cloud, that Nancy didn't pay for the subscription, that the cameras could detect motion but saved nothing. The only people who know a camera is a prop, are the people who see it every week and know she never paid for the service. 2. They knew the gate. The suspect passes through without forcing anything, no tool marks. Either Nancy left it unlocked, possible for an 84-year-old who felt safe in a home she'd occupied for decades, or someone ensured it would be open. Someone who was standing at that gate 4 hours earlier saying goodnight. 3. They knew the medication schedule, what she took, what it managed, and they left it on the counter, which tells me either they didn't understand the medication was essential, unlikely for anyone who spent time around Nancy, or they knew she wouldn't need it. 4. They knew the pacemaker existed. They knew it was linked to her phone via Bluetooth. The disconnect at 2:28 a.m. means they moved her beyond range of her own device. Knowing about the pacemaker means knowing intimate medical details about Nancy's health. 5. They knew Savannah's schedule. Nancy was taken. On the exact weekend, Savannah was supposed to fly internationally for NBC's Winter Olympics coverage, an assignment determined months in advance. The most powerful person in this family, the one with the platform to mobilize a nation, would have been 6,000 miles away. Who knows an in-law's international work schedule? Someone who hears about it at dinner. 6. They knew the neighborhood's internet infrastructure. Not just Nancy's cameras, the neighbor's cameras, the utility box around the corner. They knew how to take down the entire block's surveillance network. 7. They had been on the property before. The FBI confirmed images from 2 dates. A neighbor saw a stranger on January 11th. The suspect moved through the porch on February 1st like he had walked it 100 times. 7 items. That is not a stranger's homework. That is 20 years of accumulated knowledge compressed into a 41-minute operation. Tommaso Cioni has walked through that gate, past those cameras, down that hallway every Friday night for 20 years. He has eaten at that kitchen counter where the medication was sitting. He has watched Nancy use her phone. He has heard about Savannah's work schedule across the dinner table. He has parked in that driveway and seen the neighbors' houses in the utility box on the corner. I am not saying he did it. I am saying the knowledge profile of the person who did this fits one position in Nancy's life more precisely than any other. And the person who holds that position has not said a word in 5 weeks. The biology teacher's hands. One more thing. Because this detail has been overlooked and it should not be. The suspect wore black nitrile gloves, the same gloves found in every biology classroom in America. Tommaso Cioni puts on nitrile gloves every working day. He teaches students how to handle specimens without contaminating them. He teaches PCR amplification, the same technique forensic labs use to process crime scene DNA. He teaches gel electrophoresis, the same method that creates the genetic profiles entered into CODIS. He does not just know how DNA evidence works, he teaches it to teenagers 5 days a week for 15 years. Now, here's what most people do not know about nitrile gloves. They are rated for chemical resistance, not forensic evidence prevention. Microtears form during physical exertion, especially around the fingertips. Sweat builds inside the glove within minutes. If you are wearing nitrile gloves while physically handling an 84-year-old woman, controlling her, carrying her, loading her into a vehicle, perspiration breaches the material. A biology teacher would know this, which means a biology teacher would also know to dispose of the gloves immediately after the operation. Not at the house, miles away. In a place where nobody would look until it was too late. A black glove was recovered approximately 2 miles from Nancy's home. DNA from an unknown male was found inside it. The profile was submitted to CODIS. No match across 19 million offender profiles. Tommaso Cioni has no criminal record. His DNA is not in CODIS. If that glove was his, the result would look exactly the way it looks right now. Unknown. No match. Dominic Evans has not been named a suspect or person of interest. He is presumed innocent. What follows is documented fact and my analysis. The internet did not stop at Tommaso. It went 1 degree further. And it found the man who has spent 19 years standing next to him on stage. Dominic Evans, 48 years old, elementary school teacher, Tucson, married, 3 sons, drummer in Early Black with Tommaso Cioni since 2007. 19 years of rehearsals, gigs, road trips, and the ordinary accumulated conversation that fills a long friendship. The physical profile. The FBI described the suspect as male, 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches, average build, facial hair beneath the mask. Evans is approximately 5 feet 9 inches. Average build. Publicly available photos show a mustache and goatee consistent with the profile. Jim Clemente identified a possible wrist marking on the suspect. Online investigators identified a similar marking on Evans in band performance footage. Height, build, facial hair, possible wrist marking. Every data point in the FBI's suspect description maps onto Dominic Evans. That is not an accusation. That is pattern recognition. The record Pima County court records show felony entries under Evans's name: burglary, robbery, theft, embezzlement, and DUI. Burglary under Arizona law is defined as entering or remaining unlawfully in a structure with intent to commit a felony inside. Read that legal definition again. Then, watch the doorbell footage. A figure entering a gated property, navigating a private residence, moving with the composure of someone for whom the geometry is familiar. The legal definition and the documented behavior describe the same operational sequence. Neither DNA profile from this case matched any entry in CODIS. For someone with felony convictions, that absence requires explanation. If Evans's cases predated mandatory DNA collection protocols or resolved through plea agreements that did not trigger submission, he could carry a criminal record while remaining invisible to the database. A felony history and no DNA in the system. That is a ghost in the machine. The 19-year pipeline. What interests me most is not the physical match. It is what 19 years of friendship produces. Think about what a person learns about a family over 2 decades of close friendship with the man who married into it. Not through interrogation, through conversation, the kind that happens between songs at rehearsal, in a car between gigs, after a show when everyone else has gone home and it is just 2 guys talking about their lives, her address, her routines, whether she sleeps lightly, what time her lights go off, how her cameras work, whether they record. The gate, the medication, the pacemaker, the neighbors. Evans confirmed he met Nancy once, an Easter egg hunt at her home in 2011. He walked onto that property, through that gate, past that entrance. But the question is not about Easter 2011. It is about the pipeline. 19 years of incidental knowledge flowing through ordinary friendship. The way water finds a crack in stone, quiet, invisible, unstoppable. And here's the detail that connects the 2 names. In late 2009, Evans, Cioni, and a 3rd musician recorded their debut album at Loveland Studios in Tucson. They chose the title together. 3 men, 1 album, 4 words. Life, love, murder. An album title is not evidence, but it is a window into the people who chose it. The Fallout Evans home address was leaked online. Strangers gathered outside. His wife spent hours in a darkened room. His youngest son was sent to relatives. Evans told the New York Times he felt like someone had taken his name. He spoke with investigators for 40 minutes and has not heard from them since. The harassment Evans and his family have endured is real, and it is wrong. But I also cannot ignore the documented record, the physical match, the criminal history, the 19-year connection. And one critical fact. Sheriff Nanos cleared the Guthrie family, all siblings and spouses. Evans is not a sibling. He is not a spouse. He is a bandmate. He was not included in that clearance. The sheriff's words protected the family. They did not protect Dominic Evans. The first silence is personal. The second is institutional. And the institutional silence tells you more. The car, 2:36 a.m., February 1st. A Ring camera on Camino Royale, 2.5 miles from Nancy's home, captures a vehicle on a residential back road. The homeowners were outside the canvas radius. They came forward voluntarily. Sheriff Nanos confirmed the timing aligns with the investigative timeline. A retired NYPD detective assessed it as a compact crossover, possibly a Kia Soul. Nancy's pacemaker disconnected at 2:28. An NBC correspondent drove the route. 6 minutes. 2:28 plus 6 is 2:34. The car appears at 2:36. 2 minutes of margin. 2 minutes is not a discrepancy. 2 minutes is the behavioral signature of a driver pausing at the end of a street to check mirrors, remove a mask, confirm the road ahead, and compose themselves before accelerating away from a crime scene. The FBI knows the make, the model, the direction. The cell tower pings from every device in that corridor, and they have said nothing. The FBI does not go silent around evidence it does not have. The FBI goes silent around evidence it is protecting for prosecution. The ransom that was never meant to be collected. Multiple outlets received ransom demands within days of Nancy's disappearance. A note to KOLDTV contained details about her home and what she was wearing that night. TMZ received a highly sophisticated demand involving cryptocurrency. 2. Deadlines passed, communication stopped. The Bitcoin wallet the FBI reportedly monitored showed zero activity. The ransom notes knew what Nancy was wearing. That detail means the sender either took her or was in direct contact with the person who did. But here's what the ransom amount tells you. $6 million. Not 5, not 10. Not a round number a stranger throws at a wall. 6 million is precise. It says, I know what Savannah Guthrie earns. I know the difference between her net worth and her liquid cash. I know what this family can actually access. A stranger demands 50 million because strangers dream big. An insider lands on 6 because an insider has been sitting at the same dinner table for 20 years listening to conversations about money. And the wallet is dead. The FBI sent a trace amount as a trap. Zero activity. Nobody has touched it. If this was really about money, someone would have accessed the funds. The silence of that wallet confirms what the medication on the counter already told us. The ransom was never meant to be collected. It was a narrative device, a misdirection designed to push investigators toward a financial motive while the actual motive sat undisturbed 4 miles away. Drop a comment if you caught that. The medication on the counter and the dead Bitcoin wallet are telling you the same story from 2 different angles. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Multiple DNA sources were found inside Nancy's home. Mixed profiles, genetic material from more than one contributor. CODIS returned no matches. A private lab in Florida is conducting separation and genetic genealogy analysis, the same technique that identified the Idaho student murders suspect. Genetic genealogy expert Cece Moore said she is extremely hopeful the process will identify a suspect. Her words, if she were the kidnapper, she would be extremely concerned right now. The technique needs just one relative in a commercial database and builds a family tree until only one name fits. The DNA does not need a confession. It does not need cooperation. It builds itself one relative at a time. And when the branch ends, there is a name. That name is already in the data. The algorithm is already running. The Scottsdale thread. On January 31st, the same day, 2 California teens allegedly posed as delivery drivers to invade a Scottsdale, Arizona home in a cryptocurrency theft plot. They were arrested hours before Nancy disappeared. A retired FBI agent suggested investigators should examine the case for connections. Same state, same day, same crypto angle. Maybe a coincidence. But investigators do not ignore coincidences that rhyme this cleanly. The elder abuse angle. Former FBI agents, Maureen O'Connell and Jim Clemente, raised a different possibility. They suggested Nancy's trusting nature made her vulnerable to the wider orbit of people around an elderly person, healthcare workers, cleaning staff, aides, handymen. O'Connell noted elderly individuals often share personal information freely. Clemente raised the possibility of AI voice cloning to extract information. The circle of people with the knowledge to execute this crime is wider than a family, but it is much, much narrower than a city. And the FBI's silence tells me they already know exactly how narrow. Sheriff Nanos stated on March 2nd that investigators are definitely closer. A full-time task force, 5 detectives, and multiple FBI agents at the Tucson field office. Prosecutors from the Pima County Attorney's Office are embedded with the team. That means pre-prosecution architecture is being built right now. Read that again. Prosecutors are not embedded in investigations that are going nowhere. They are embedded in investigations that are building toward a name. Cadaver dogs have been pulled back. The shift points toward digital forensics, genetic genealogy, and surveillance analysis as the primary tracks. They are not searching the desert. They are building a case. The Arizona Republic revealed this week that Sheriff Nanos resigned in lieu of termination from the El Paso Police Department in 1982, 2 years earlier than his resume claims, after disciplinary issues, including insubordination and excessive force. His own colleagues have called this investigation an ego case. Whether you trust the sheriff or not, the FBI is running the forensics. Cell tower data does not care about egos. Genetic genealogy does not care about press conferences. And the DNA in that Florida lab is building toward a name whether anyone cooperates or not. FBI tips have tapered. But the investigation has expanded. The task force is full-time. The prosecutors are embedded. Both silences are running out of time. The DNA does not wait. The cell towers do not wait. And when the name at the end of that genealogy tree resolves, every silence in this case ends at once. Nancy Guthrie has been gone for 39 days. She is 84. She needs medication that is sitting on her kitchen counter. Her pacemaker has not been checked in 5 weeks. Her daughter walked back into the Today Show studio last week. She hugged her colleagues. She cried. She said she will come back to work. But not yet. $1 million from the family, $100,000 from the FBI. Anonymous tips accepted. Cash available. Somewhere in Tucson, there is a person who knows, a neighbor who saw a car that did not belong, a store clerk who sold a backpack to someone who paid cash, a bandmate who noticed a shift in behavior, a wife who heard a phone ring at 3 a.m. and was told it was nothing. That person is watching this right now. Call the number, take the money, break the silence, bring Nancy home. FBI tip line, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Pima County Sheriff, 5203-5149-00. Online, tips.fbi.gov. Anonymous. Cash reward. Share this video with everyone following this case. The more eyes on the evidence, the harder it becomes to stay invisible. Subscribe. Turn on every notification. When this silence breaks, this is where you hear it first.